Good morning. Happy Father's Day. Thank you for watching. Oh, I got a fun one for you today. So because it's Father's Day, I got the Crayola paint from Walmart for $2.97. Because I was remembering when I used to color with my little boy, who's now almost 40 years old. But today we're going to paint this picture. And I painted it with this kit and with the brush that came with this kit, this brush. So for $2.97, I was able to paint this picture of the Pisgah National Forest, a trail in the Pisgah National Forest. And I'll tell you what I think about it, what the paint felt like and the whole process. And it's the first time I've used that, well, since a very long time, and I never really painted with it seriously until today. And not too bad. All right, let me show you how I did that right now. Good morning. This is going to be a Father's Day edition of Poppa Paints, because you can't be a papa unless at first you're a father or a daddy, or maybe papa is the word for father in your world. In my world, it means grandpa. I went to the Walmart and I saw these watercolors, and it reminded me of a camping trip I went on when my son was younger, much younger. And we didn't buy the watercolors that day. We bought them when I got home, and we used them on a coloring book. But we visited the Pisgah National Forest. We visited the Blue Ridge Parkway. And when I saw these watercolors in the store, they were only $2.97. I have no idea how these are going to work. We'll find out together. They look pretty. Looks like there's lots of colors. So I challenged myself. Not bad. It's made by Crayola. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. But I just thought I would try it. So I'm going to use the brush and the paint and nothing else. Let's see if we can do this. Oh, I should put it this way, shouldn't I? Because then I can use that as the palette. All right, let's try this. Yeah, the Pisgah National Forest is what I have in mind. Let's just see. Whoa, it's very blue. Oh my gosh, it's very blue. It's super blue. Okay. So you gotta water it down a little bit, it looks like. Okay, I can do that. So we're gonna use the brush that came with the kit. Oh my gosh, look how blue that is. I kinda like that. You know what? That's gonna be the sky in the background. I know you know that. So it's Father's Day, and the best thing that ever happened to me was to become a father. Well, aside from being born, I suppose, being a son was a good thing too. I'm just painting the back of the car. Don't ask me why. I don't have a real reason. I'm just spreading it out. I'm just basically experimenting with this paint. And the brush, by the way, has already lost one hair. I already had to pick one hair off of the paper. So we'll see how this brush goes. I might like the paint better than the brush. Is there another hair there? Oh my gosh. Have you ever painted outdoors, like plein air painting, and you get bugs in the paint? Like an oil painting, right? And you get bugs in the oil paint, and it's like, oh, what am I going to do? How am I going to fix that? And the bugs, in the plein air paintings that I've done, the bugs basically stay there. That's where they live, or that's where they are memorialized. I can't even tell what color that is. Looks like it's a brown, I guess. All right, let's make a little path through the Pisgah National Forest. This is create a little path. Let's see how this works out. There's a little path. We'll have some foliage over here. Make sure this is all dry before we go anywhere else. I can go ahead and add some of these orange colors here. So, just to kind of tell you, you know what I wanted to mention? A couple of videos I have done have been basically at the request, not at the request, but just the idea of putting art for sale on a website has attracted the attention of people who want to know how to sell their art on websites. And if I just said something that caught your attention, I want to first tell you that you can't sell art unless you have it somewhere, whether it's a website or this is very light. Wherever it is, you have to let people know it's there. I think I know something about you. I think I know something about you because you're an artist. And I think what I know is that you're shy. Am I right? Are you shy? Sometimes? Yeah, me too. Well, shy can sometimes get in the way of selling things. So let's try to kind of walk through this real quick. I don't want to spend too much time on this because I really want to spend time on the Pisgah National Forest. But just in a nutshell, if you have a store, the old-fashioned way, just a store that people can walk into, and it's in the middle of the desert or the middle of the forest where nobody will find you, then nobody will know you're there. If you get people talking about you, talking about your art, then people will find you, and people will find your art, and people will look at your art, and they will look at it for a couple of different reasons, but the important one is that some of them will buy your art. That's what I wanted to tell you, that some people will come and buy your art. So let's talk about the new world where everything is online. Just because you have it online doesn't mean people will find you. You have to not be shy. That's what I'm getting at. You have to let people find you. Okay? Just don't be shy. Let the people find you. Alright, so here we go. This is all going to be up here. Yeah, this is definitely children's paint. And it's definitely very thin, but we're going to work it. We're not going to give up hope. And we're not going to ignore the fact that this is one of the most beautiful places in the world. So I want to share it with you. Okay? And so we used to camp, my son and I would camp in tents and in cabins. Cabins were my preferred way of sleeping because when it rained, you didn't get wet. If it rained a little bit in a tent, we didn't get wet. But if it rained a lot, we did get wet. Absolutely. All right, now I'm going for the green, the darker green here. Let's just see what we can do with this brush and this paint. Let's just see what we can come up with here. Just come up with the Crayola. I never painted with crayon. I've seen people do some amazing work with crayons though, so I don't know. I'm just trying to do a mixture here of yellows and greens. Make sure some of that blue sticks to the picture, stays with the picture. Okay. Make a nice pathway here for people and animals. What do you think of this paint so far? What do you think of this painting so far? Very wet. It's very wet. I don't know if the brush did that or if I just made a mistake here, but it's okay. Let me make sure we get a little bit of orange in the background here. I am definitely making a mess, but that's okay. That's my middle name. My middle name is Mess. Poppa the Mess. You know, when I was a young dad, I never thought I'd be a papa in the future. And so I used to tell, we had a CB radio in the car. Did you ever have a CB radio back in those days? A lot of people had CB radios. So we had a CB radio, and everybody who had a CB radio had a handle, you know, something they would call themselves. And so to open the trunk of the car, you'd have to pop the trunk of the car. And so I knew the name Poppa because that's what I called my grandfather. And so I joked with my son that my handle on CB was going to be Poppa the Trunk, because you got to Poppa the trunk open in order to get the tent out of the car, in order to set up the tent. So Poppa the Trunk, that was my name, my handle. We didn't use the CB that much, though, to be honest with you. But we do have some fun memories of using that CB. I kind of miss the CB radio. We should get another one now that I'm talking about it. Okay, a couple of vertical lines here. Okay, I'm going to let this dry because I can't do much while it's wet. Make it just a little bit drier. Here, I can work it. Yeah, so while it's drying, I want to read to you. I don't have a poem today, but I have a little piece from the internet about the Pisgah National Forest. I thought I would share it with you. Okay, right now I gotta let this dry. Oh, there's some blue. Let me spread that blue out a little bit, let that dry. That'll probably serve me in some way. We'll see when we get there. It's really turning green because of all the yellow underneath it. Okay, so let me let this dry, and I will read to you a little bit that I have here on the Pisgah National Forest. Okay, I keep saying that and I keep painting anyway. I'm talking and painting. I should be reading a little bit. I just want that to be light. See, I'm trying to navigate here to separate the lights from the darks. Okay, give me a second. Let me work on this a little bit, then I'll read to you. So it's Father's Day. My own son today and my grandson, they're not going to be here. They're at the beach. He's been sending me pictures of it, so that's what I want. I want him to have fun. Hey, it's going to be one of the best times of his life, being a daddy, you know. So I want him to have that time. It's not Papa's Day, it's Father's Day. So he's the father now. You know, he needs to have fun with his little guy. Make those memories, you know, that'll last a lifetime. These are the memories that I now enjoy. Yeah, we want that lit there. That's got to be lit right there. I like the landscapes where there's like light in the distance, like you're walking toward the light. Does that make sense? All right, now we got a kind of a collage of colors. I'm not sure if this is considered fall or not. It might be. All right, we're sticking with the one brush, sticking with the one package of paint. And here's what it says about the Pisgah National Forest. It says, on October 17th, 1916, the Pisgah National Forest was the first national forest established under the Weeks Act of 1911. written by FHS historian Jamie Lewis. This post was originally published in the online version of the Asheville Citizen-Times on October 14th, 2016, and in print on October 16th to mark the centennial. All right, well, that's what I'm going to read to you. And this is what it says. When people walk around this forest, at every step of the way, they're encountering nature, some of which has been regenerated by the initiatives of those generations they know not, they know nothing about. And I think that's ultimately the greatest gift, that you've given to them beautiful, working landscapes, and you don't know where they came from. Wow. Historian Char Miller closes our new documentary film, America's First Forest, by acknowledging those who labored to create the Pisgah National Forest, which celebrates its centennial on October 17th. That must have been 2016, right? We chose that quote because it simultaneously summed up the Pisgah's history and looked to its future by implicitly asking who would carry on the work of the early generations in managing this national forest. Miller is right. The Pisgah is a gift from many people, some whose names are familiar, but many whose names are not. Most have heard of George Vanderbilt or his Biltmore estate. His greatest gift, however, was not to himself but to the nation. He hired renowned landscape architect Frederick Law Olmsted to design Biltmore's grounds. Creator of New York's Central Park and other urban green spaces, Olmsted saw in this project opportunity to give back to the nation, and threw Vanderbilt a way to do so. In 1890, Vanderbilt needed a forester. America needed forestry. Olmsted advised hiring a professional forester who would demonstrate to America that one could cut trees and preserve the forest at the same time. Well, that is interesting, isn't it? Vanderbilt hired Gifford Pinchot, who then crafted the first ever sustainable forest management plan in the United States. Pinchot later gave back to the country in his own way. In 1905, he established the U.S. Forest Service, providing the nation with an institution to manage its national forests and grasslands. But before Vanderbilt's employ in 1895, Pinchot did two things. He facilitated Vanderbilt's purchase of an additional 100,000 acres, which Vanderbilt named Pisgah Forest, and he recommended hiring German forester Karl Schenk to implement his management plan. Schenk's experimental practices not only restored the forest, but also improved its wildlife and fish habitat. This turned Pisgah Forest into a revenue source as well as a playground for its owner. A sustainably managed forest can provide all those things and more. Wow. In 1898, Schenk established the Biltmore Forest School, the country's first forestry school, to educate men wanting to become forest managers or owners. Many of the nearly 400 graduates also served in the Forest Service. The impact of Schenk's gift is still seen on public and private forests today. Thankfully, Congress preserved the school grounds as the cradle of forestry in America, historic site. These men are not the only ones to thank for the Pisgah National Forest. In 1899, Asheville physician Chase Ambler mobilized citizens to protect the region's scenery and climate. Pressured by conservation groups from the South and New England, Congress passed the Weeks Act of 1911, which empowered the federal government to purchase private land for the Forest Service to manage. This legislative gift pleased not only preservationists like Ambler by protecting scenery and recreation areas, but also conservationists because the land remained available for logging and other extractive activities. Wow. Should I keep reading? It's not dry. My painting's not dry yet. Let me keep reading. In 1914, George Vanderbilt's widow, Edith, sold Pisgah Forest for a fraction of its value, in part to perpetuate the conservation legacy of her husband and as a contribution to the American people. Pisgah Forest became the nucleus of the Pisgah National Forest, the first established under the Weeks Act, and Biltmore Forest School graduate Vern Rhodes became its first supervisor in 1916. But that is the past. The future of the Pisgah National Forest and its neighbor, the Nantahala, is being written now. The U.S. Forest Service is drafting a forest management plan to guide how it manages the forests for the next dozen or so years. At public meetings, the Forest Service has been hearing from citizens and groups like the Pisgah Conservancy to help it craft the forest's future. Like Carl Schenck and Vern Rhodes before them, Pisgah's current managers face great uncertainties, only now in the form of forest pests and disease, climate change, and a place so attractive that its visitors are loving it to death. Those who cherish the Pisgah for its beautiful working landscapes can honor those who gave us that gift by continuing to sustainably manage it. That can ultimately be our greatest gift to future generations. Okay, I got that from a website called foresthistory.org. If you want to look it up, it's probably got more on there than what I just read to you. Wow, that's pretty amazing. You know, one of the things that strikes me about what is written there is that it's a thing, you know, when you're a dad and you're out camping with your little guy, the one thing you want to do is impress upon him or her, little girl, any little child, one thing you want to impress upon them is to pick up, you know, to clean up. So I think I like what the message was there, is that it's kind of still up to us, anybody who visits any place, not just this place, but any of them, you know? So, all right, let me add some darks here. Hopefully I can get this to look like a nice painting. Take this brush and make it very, gotta put some trees in here. Some dark areas on the bottoms of the trees. Those mysterious dark areas. Hope you're enjoying this. I know a lot of times the conversation tends to go toward the paint, the quality of the paint, the amount you spend on the paint and all that. I wouldn't disagree. I know that there's a lot of truth to that. I just sort of have to. But you know, you think about like early artists, what they did. I think if it's watered down, it looks more distant-y, right? Just keep lots of little tree areas here. Get right thin. Even dotted lines are sort of kind of give it the illusion of distant trees. Let's bring it closer to the camera, to the viewer. There's no camera here, of course. Closer to the brush. Closer to the brush. Yeah, $2.97 is what I paid for this paint. I'll let you know if I'll ever do this again. Or you tell me, would you ever do this again? Would you ever go for the super cheap paints? See, because it's Father's Day, so you might want to. like get something, a little kid. You know, maybe you got a little budding artist in your family. A little boy, a little girl that wants to paint. My grandson does. He paint. I think all kids do. I think all kids get out the coloring books and the markers. I shared with you a card that my grandson made for me. And it was just a beautiful thing. It was a get well card, and I wasn't even sick. What it turned out to be is that he heard that I was going to the doctor, and he thought that meant I was sick. But you know, when you're old, you go to the doctor just because. You go to the doctor just, I guess, to make sure you got everything going. Everything's working, right? That's why you go. I guess I forgot, when you're little, you only go when you're sick. At least that's what he thought. So he did. He sent me a card that he painted or drew with his markers. A little bit of darkness there. I need to create some of this look. I have to kind of mix the colors, obviously. I can hear the birds outside. Can you hear them? They're very active. They're saying Happy Father's Day. You know, in some species, the father plays an active role in the lives of the young, right? And in other species, the father just disappears, goes somewhere. I don't know that I understand all of that, but that's just the way God made him. Made him that way. Some animals, the father actually helps feed and raise, and other ones, you know, but the mother always does. The mother's always there, I think. I think that's the one thing. My father wrote a poem about his mother, and I found it. I never knew about it. I found it after he passed. Let's put a little bit of red in here. Put a little red in this bottom part here. Give it a little bit of red. Let me kind of pick up that red and put it in there. So I found that poem my father wrote for his mother, and I never knew about it. And you know, my younger days was me trying to become a songwriter, and so I set his poem to music, and so that's how it is in my brain. Don't worry, I'm not going to sing it to you. But yeah, that was quite a find for me. Do you know what I found the other day? I found, see, my father was a policeman in New York City, and I found the application form to retire. I absolutely found it. I couldn't believe it. And so it gives the details about what his shield number was. In New York, they call the badge the shield. Yeah, it was very interesting. I have it in my drawer. In fact, I have it in the drawer I'm sitting in front of right now, or behind. Don't worry, I won't pull it out. I won't distract you from this. Just keep this area back here has to be the darker area. Go ahead and put a couple. Yeah, I think the secret to this is just continuing to layer it, which means I have to continue to let it dry. But we're probably going to have a little bit of dappled light happening here too. Let me see if I can put one large tree here. One large tree. And as you know, the water on top of water, the water on top of dried paint will reactivate the lower layer, which, since you know it does that, you let it work for you. You let it do what it needs to do, right? You knew that. All right. How's it coming? How's it looking? Looking watercolory? It's very watercolory. Absolutely watercolory. Yeah, I kind of like the way it dries, looking like that. So the question is, would I use this again? Yeah, sure, why not? If this creates a certain look, then why not? Why not use it again? If you want this look, it'd be a great look for illustrating a children's book, or even illustrating like an editorial piece for the article I just read, that kind of thing. Oh yeah, photography is awesome as well. Obviously, we use photography for a lot, and I am using a reference photo that is from photography. So of course, just trying to make it darker on this side. So darker here and here. I want these two sides to be dark, like you're walking into the light. And the street should be a little bit dappled with color. Let's make that a little thinner up there. Just a little thin line of light coming through there. Well, here's my thinking so far on this paint. It is clearly a thinner paint, way thinner than what I'm used to. And of course, way thinner than gouache, way thinner than the other Winsor Newton paints that I was using. Which, by the way, the paint was delivered. I ordered new paint and I ordered new cards. The cards have not yet arrived. This card I made from a piece of watercolor paper, a large piece. Yeah, this is going to take a little time to dry because it's just water everywhere. I think that's one of the problems with the cheaper paint. That's what it is. Although, hey, if you're stuck on an island or in a forest or in a campsite and all you have is this, what the heck, why not? Why not have some fun with it? Keep with the dappled light going here. Go ahead and put some red in there, I think. Put some yellow over here. Okay, we're getting the composition going here. We're making it happen, right? Here we go. One of the cool things about, I always have these great memories of walking through the campgrounds. Every time I see a trail, it's what I think about. It's those times when I would actually walk so far. The kids always make fun of when you say how far you used to walk to school. But it's true. I mean, we did walk far to school. I walked 2 miles. I am not exaggerating. And I didn't even know it was 2 miles. I only know it's 2 miles now because of Google Maps. I went to I was curious one time to see how far did I actually walk when I was a kid. How far did I actually walk to school? And I looked on Google Maps, and you can measure it on Google Maps. So it did. It showed 2 miles. So I was like, whoa. Now walking 2 miles is a big accomplishment for me. But think about that. I would walk 2 miles. You probably did too. Walk 2 miles, and then while you're in school, you're walking all day long, right? You're walking in the halls, and you're not stopping. And at the end of the day, you walk home another 2 miles. Just a lot of walking when we were younger. That's what I should do now. I should get out there and walk more. Get out there with the crow. You hear the crow? Well, this must be an autumn day in the Pisgah Forest. Get some of this yellow and this orange in here. There we go. So it's starting to dry, but it's not drying as quick as I'd like it to. I don't know why it's not drying as quick as the other paint does. The only thing I can think is that this paint requires more water to work. That must be what's going on here. It just takes more water. Maybe some of these branches are reaching over like this too. Well, this is an interesting experiment, and it's a good Father's Day thing. Get out the paints. Go paint with your children. Get the little ones involved. Just get a $2.97 paint kit. Use the brush that comes with it. Use the paints that come with it. Paint something that you know you can pull off. You might not want to do a portrait of the Mona Lisa or something, but maybe you do. Why not? Why not? Let's get the red and the black mixed together. So anyway, just to reiterate what I was trying to say earlier, when you're trying to sell your art, just remember you have to have it available, and so it can be an actual store, a storefront. You can maybe ask a local restaurant to display your art, and you can give them a percentage of anything that sells, or some kind of deal. You can negotiate, wheel and deal a little bit. But the one thing I think that stops most of us from actually selling art is shyness. I think a lot of us are just too shy to admit that we have something really good, really worthwhile, really something that other people would like to own, something that reminds them of something else. The Pisgah National Forest is probably something that reminds somebody of something, because we've all been someplace like it, or we've all been to this place, Just trying to get these little lines. So it's starting to look good. What do you think? I think it is looking good. I think it is looking like a pretty nice place to take a walk. There's a lot of oranges over here I can add. Let's get some dappled light into the shoulder of the road here too. And then there's another thing you can do, which I've never done, but I've watched videos of artists who make their own paint. They take oil and they go out into the woods and they find flowers and they grind them up, and oh my gosh, I've never made my own paint like that. It's kind of a cool idea. but it's probably never going to happen. I'm probably always going to be going to the store to buy paint. But I've never bought it like this before. Except for maybe when I was younger, you know. When I was a young dad, I mean, I don't even remember using this paint when I was a kid. But maybe I did. At some point I did. Well, we've all used crayons, right? Still use crayons. I don't use crayons, but I mean, the kids still use crayons. I should use crayons. Actually, in church, there's a children's ministry, and the pastor's wife is in charge of it. And she quite often has crayons on the table, and a little assignment here and there to do something with the crayons. I think there's just so much going on in a forest that you have to just take a little time to dabble it around. I like the idea of the ground being less than perfect. Alright, let me darken, if I can do that, darken this side of the tree. Get a little bit of darkness on there. This paintbrush is shot. Look at it. That paintbrush definitely doesn't last long. That's probably the weakest link of the whole thing, is the paintbrush. But what I want to do now is I want to a little bit more dabbling. I think I'll be done. A little bit more dark. Let the light come through here. When the light goes dim like that on the video, that's because the monitor went to sleep and I have to reawaken it. The monitor is where I have my reference photo. Yeah, so it's so wet right there. It's not really adding anything when I touch it. So let me now go. I'm going to clean the brush. I'm just going to try to lift some of this over here for some lighter colors. Do you see that? You got to clean the brush and just pull the water over it. Just to get some lighter, lift the color off of the paper. One more. I think I want to add a lot more orange in here too. I think this is more of an autumn kind of a look. I think the orange will offset the bright area down there. So down there it looks more yellow, and over here it looks more red and orange. So we've got, what are we into now? The 18th, 16th day of June. Autumn is not that far away. I know summer didn't even start, but when you're in the business of making cards, got to start early, right? I know some of you already started with your Christmas cards, your winter cards. I know. I've been looking at the Facebook page, the Poppa Paints Facebook group, I should say. Well, that looks pretty nice. What do you think? Just a little trail. A little more dark here is here. The brush is so raggedy. Can you see how raggedy the brush is? That's actually working for me because I'm using it as a way to make these leaves. But I don't think it's unfixable. I think you could probably straighten that out. Alright, I think I'm done. And we got that illusion of the light coming from the back there. I'll put a little bit more up here. There we go. I think I'll call it done. All right. Well, what do you think about our Father's Day experiment? Working with $2.97 Walmart Crayola paint. And I've hardly used any of it. And if you think about it, there's a lot of paint left in there. The paintbrush. See, I can reform it, make it into a nice point there. See it? And put that in the case. Close it up. And there's our label again. Whoops. There's our label. Washable watercolors. 2 times more paint. And the Pisgah National Forest card is done. I'm going to turn off the camera, let it dry, and I'll be right back. Okay, it's dry now. Let me fold it again. And here's my review. Well, first of all, the card. I cut the card out of paper, so I didn't line it up perfectly. But the paint has dried in a very kind of a chalky way, which is not bad. It's interesting, isn't it? But would I use it? Well, would I use it again? Yeah, of course I would use it again, but only to have fun. But to be honest with you, that was a fun experiment, and it'd be a great thing for kids. But I don't think it stands up to the other paint that I've been using. So for those of you who've been telling me that the paint I was using is student grade, I will take your word on that. I haven't bought the more expensive paint yet, but I will. And then maybe everything will be even better. But this is fun. Happy Father's Day, everybody. Thank you for watching. Bye.